Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 12 running back rankings for fantasy football in 2021 after the NFL draft. In this video, we're obviously going to be talking about the top 12 guys, why they're ranked where they are due to their stats from past years, as well as my projection as to where they are going to be in 2021 and how I expect the team to play, because obviously you can't just take the same rankings from last year and just throw them up here and say that's exactly how things are going to go, because teams are completely different. The running backs may be coming off of injuries and all these things that kind of get all smashed together to become where they are ranked in 2021. Now, again, these kind of videos always have a lot of disagreement about my rankings. So if you guys disagree, again, you can disagree. I'm very happy that you think differently than me, and that's okay with me, as long as you don't get all fucking angry in the comments. Even if you do, it's pretty fun to read. So let me know down below in the comments who your guys' top 12 running backs are for fantasy football in 2021. And if you have any questions that weren't answered in the video about a given running back, you want a further explanation, just let me know in the comments. I always make sure to answer. While you're down there, dialing down in the comment section, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new, because I post content every single day surrounding around fantasy football, and I want to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. So come and join the team over here. Just reached over 12,000 subscribers a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully we can hit 13,000 before the end of this month. Probably not, but you never know. So let's get into it. At the number one overall running back for 2021, I got Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers. Now, I think in a majority of leagues, he will be the running back one off the board. Now, last year, pretty much every single league I was in, Christian McCaffrey was the number one overall guy off the board. And I think that may be happening this year, but I don't think it's going to be like 95%. It's going to be maybe like 75% McCaffrey, and then the other percent are the guys behind him. But I think the rankings really start at number 2, as where there's going to be disagreements between like 5 guys that could potentially become the number 2 overall running back. So Christian McCaffrey last year only played in 3 games, so his running back finish in PPR, half PPR, and standard is terrible. Running back 54 in PPR, 53 in half PPR, and 51 in standard. But if you take that out of your brain and you realize how good this guy was when he was healthy, then you're going to remember why you need to draft Christian McCaffrey at the 101 again. This guy was averaging 30.1 PPR points per game, 27.3 half PPR points per game, 24.5 standard points per game. Meaning, from a points per game perspective, Christian McCaffrey was running back 1 in PPR, half PPR, and in standard leagues. This guy is dominant every time. His 2 beautiful feet, and I don't have a foot fetish, it's just this guy's feet, they move all types of ways. It's beautiful. This guy's like a fucking ballerina on the gridiron. It's amazing. He can catch the ball like he's a receiver, and he runs the ball like he's the best running back in NFL history. This guy is just the perfect package for a running back one in fantasy football, and that's why he's been it in the past. In just 3 games last year, this guy's stats they're just pretty fucking crazy, which obviously you would know because he had 30.1 PPR points per game. He had 19 total targets. He had 17 receptions, 224 rushing yards, 6 total touchdowns, and 146 receiving yards in just 3 games. If this guy plays 16 games in 2021, which I think he should, that injury doesn't really concern me at all for 2021, he's going to be the running back one, in my opinion, a certified no-doubter to be the running back one as long as he stays healthy. In 2019, I know that's a long time ago, at least it feels like a long time ago due to the pandemic and all this stuff. It seems like ages ago, but this guy had 1,387 rushing yards, 1,005 receiving yards, double 1,000-yard seasons, and 19 touchdowns in 2019. This guy is undoubtedly the best running back in the NFL, so you should draft him as the best player in fantasy football because the running back position is the most important. He's the 101 and the number 1 overall running back in my rankings. Now, again, people will dispute. People will say X is better or this other running back is better, and I'm not going to get mad at that because I think that every single time it's hard for guys to repeat as the number 1 guy, but Christian McCaffrey wasn't the number 1 guy last year because he ended up getting hurt. So I think he sits atop of the throne, King Christian McCaffrey, as running back number 1 in 2021. At number 2, we have Dalvin Cook, running back of the Minnesota Vikings. He finished in 14 games as running back 2 in PPR, number 3 in half PPR, and running back number 3 in standard in 2020, averaging 24.1 PPR points per game, 22.6 half PPR points per game, and 21 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, Dalvin Cook was running back 3 in PPR, number 2 in half PPR, and number 2 in the standard format. So a lot of the knocks on Dalvin Cook that I was about the last 2 years, I've talked about it. I'm open about it. I've been wrong about Dalvin Cook because I always think this guy's going to end up getting hurt. He's injury prone. He's this, he's that. But I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm fine with him missing 2-3 games every year. It's whatever, because he's going to finish as the running back 2 on your team. Sure, you're going to be pissed if he gets hurt in your championship game, but that's no reason to fucking fade the guy, because he's going to be the reason why you get into the championship. This guy, just like with Christian McCaffrey, is the one that he's really good at running. He's also really good at receiving, and that's why you get a really good fantasy running back out of him. 54 targets in 2020 for 44 receptions, 361 receiving yards, 1,500 rushing yards, number 2 in the NFL, and 17 total touchdowns. Now, he's not going to put up the numbers of Christian McCaffrey in the receiving game, but he's also not Derrick Henry in the receiving game, where Derrick Henry seems like he legitimately has zero idea how to grasp a fucking football. Now, he knows how to grab it when he's handed it, but when he's thrown it, he just drops it every single time. I still think that Derrick Henry, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, is really good as well for fantasy, but Dalvin Cook also has very solid hands, and I think that he is my number 2 running back. Now, again, if you are a little bit worried about injuries, maybe Dalvin Cook's not your guy at number 2, and you go with my running back 3 behind him instead, and I would completely understand that, but I'm trying to tell you guys that as someone who was very worried about his injuries in the past, 2 years off from the ACL tear, you should not be worried at all about Dalvin Cook. They have a decent enough offensive line. Their defense should have gotten better. So I think that we are going to see Dalvin Cook yet again put up big numbers in 2021. To me, kind of a no-brainer running back number 2. But if you have someone else over him behind Dalvin Cook, I also would not be very surprised. At number 3, we have a guy that I have juggled my thoughts on a lot before I ended up putting out this video, because it's very confusing when you look at the numbers between who their guy's quarterback is. And that's Mr. Alvin Kamara, running back of the New Orleans Saints. The reason why there's a big discrepancy in the numbers is from Taysom Hill's quarterback versus with Drew Brees, but I'm not going to even bring those numbers up because I don't think that Taysom Hill is going to be the guy. I think famous Jameis Eat a W Winston is going to be the starting quarterback in 2021, and I think Alvin Kamara will be just fine with him. Now, currently, he is going off the board as pick number 5, so maybe I'm a little bit bullish. Maybe I like him more than you guys, but I really think Alvin Kamara should be able to have another great season, just like with McCaffrey, just like with Cook. This guy is the perfect 1-2 punch. He can catch the ball as well as rush the ball. His receiving ability is better than Dalvin Cook's. Maybe it's not actually better, but in terms of getting fantasy points from it, because he's going to get more targets, that's kind of the sense that I'm talking about. So in 15 games last year, was running back 1 in PPR, number 1 in half PPR, and running back 2 in standard, averaging 25.2 PPR points per game, 22.6 half PPR points per game, and 21 standard points per game. Meaning, from a points per game perspective, Alvin Kamara was running back 2 in PPR, 3 in half PPR, and running back numero 4 in standard. His numbers were they were quite good. He had the number 1 most receiving yards at the running back position with 756 on 107 targets for 83 receptions, as well as putting up 187 carries for 937 rushing yards, 13th highest at the running back position. This man had over 20 touchdowns with 21. Shout out 21 Savage, most touchdowns in the NFL at the running back position. The Saints, obviously, gonna look different without Drew Brees, so that is kind of worrisome. That's why I was worried at the beginning, but I started thinking more about it, and I'm thinking that Jameis Winston, the guy got his fucking LASIK surgery, the crab stealer himself, is gonna be able to dump the ball off to Alvin Kamara. It's not very difficult. They make plays for Alvin Kamara to get the ball because you can see what the guy can do when you get him the ball in space. For instance, week 16 up against the Minnesota Vikings, this guy scored not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 total touchdowns. This guy whipped his dick out and fucking nutted all over the Minnesota Vikings. He absolutely demoralized the franchise. Okay? That's how good this guy is. He can score 6 touchdowns in a game. He scored 3 touchdowns in a game earlier on in the season up against the San Francisco 49ers. And don't be surprised if this guy drops a 2-piece on you, because week 1, 2, and 3, this guy scored 2 touchdowns in all of those games. So Alvin Kamara is going to be very safe. I'm not worried about Jameis Winston. Some people will be, but Jameis, in my mind, should be fine with Alvin Kamara. At number 4, we have another guy that's a little bit scary, and that is Saquon Barkley, running back of the New York Football Giants. Now, if I know anything about Saquon Barkley, which I know a decent amount about, it's that this guy's a superhuman. This guy got hurt in 2019. They say it's going to be like a month and a half, and the man's back like 2 weeks later. He is simply like, you know how people say this guy's built different? Saquon Barkley is etched out of stone like a Greek god. This guy's quads are fucking beautiful. So Saquon Barkley, 6 feet tall, 233 pounds last year, ends up playing in just 2 games because he ended up getting hurt, obviously. Like I said, ends up tearing his ACL, has his knee reconstructed, which takes 6 to 9 months, so he should be good to go for week number 1. Should be good to go for any type of camp they have. Now, again, this year, the NFL players are fighting against camp, so who knows what we're going to be seeing in June or July, but you know, there's nothing you can do about that if the teams don't end up showing up to that. Some teams will, some teams will not, I believe. Based upon what I've read, I could be completely off on that because that's not something I really focus in on or during May. So, in 2 games, he finishes running back 121 in PPR, 120 in half PPR, and 120 in standard, averaging just 7.7 PPR points per game, 6.2 half PPR points per game, and 4.7 standard points per game. So you could guess his points per game finish on the season was shit as well. Running back 56 in PPR, 60 in half PPR, and 68 or 67 in standard, so he just was not very good. That's because the 2 games he ended up playing were up against 2 tough opponents. Week 1 up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The defense really shut him down. Only got 12.6 points in that game, running back 23. And then week 2 up against the Chi-Town Bears. He ends up getting hurt so early on in the game that he only puts up like 2 points, so his numbers just are not very high. But if you remember in the past, you do a Back to the Future scenario, Saquon was very good in the past. Obviously, in 2019, this guy's numbers were very good. He had 73 targets. He had 52 receptions, 438 receiving yards, 217 carries for 1,003 rushing yards, and a grand total of 8 touchdowns. But the Giants' offense looks a bit different now. They bring in Kenny Bones. They draft Kadarius Toney. This offense should be pretty solid in my mind as long as Danny Dimes is able to play okay. So I think that Saquon Barkley is going to be someone that a lot of people are nervous about drafting, but don't be too nervous because this man is a freak of goddamn nature. Next up at running back number 5, drum roll please. Just kidding. First, you guys got to remember to hit the subscribe button. That's right. I'm holding you fucking hostage right here. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below if you are new. At number 5, we got D-Rock Henry, the king. The real king in most people's eyes. Derrick Henry, running back 3.8, or underdog ADP is 3.8, so he's like the 3rd or 4th pick in a lot of drafts of the Tennessee Titans. This guy, dude, imagine trying to fucking tackle Derrick Henry. Like, this dude would run me over, and I'm pretty sure I would get knocked into the next state. I would not be able to, he'd probably kill me. He would definitely kill me. This dude's 6'3", 250 pounds. Dude's fucking huge. Like, you've seen the way he stiff-armed these guys. This guy, he's crazy, but he can't catch the ball. But that shouldn't worry you at all because he's still finishing super high regardless about the fact that he can't catch the ball. Now, reports are coming out. This guy is working on his grip. He is going to be able to catch the ball by the 2021 season. If that happens, if he's actually catching the ball like 3 times a game, then Derrick Henry will be probably the running back 1, if that's the case. If he gets like 300 fucking receiving yards, gets like 50-something catches, he's going to be unreal. Because last year he had 31 targets, 19 receptions, 114 receiving yards, which is literally like nothing. He had 378 carries, though, for 2,027 rushing yards. which is obviously very good, and had 17 total touchdowns, second highest at the running back position. The most important thing to understand, though, about Derrick Henry is this guy, for some reason, is always kind of a slow starter. He doesn't really ever start the season off with like a thump where he just skull fucks a defense. It takes a little bit of time, and then the guy's dropping like 35 points a game, and you're like, that's why I drafted Derrick Henry at the running back 5 position. That's why I did it for this, and that's exactly why you're going to end up drafting him. Now, if this guy actually, like I said, figures out how to catch the ball, which they will need because it's literally A.J. Brown and a bunch of guys that you don't know who they are, Anthony Ferkser, the backup tight end for Jonnu Smith, who is now the starter, and Derrick Henry. So Ryan Tannehill may have to actually throw the ball to Derrick Henry, so we might actually see that come true. I highly doubt he's catching like fucking 50 balls, but again, you never really know. So he is my running back number 5. At number 6, we have a guy that will probably either literally be a top 5 running back, or this guy is going to completely suck because his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, decides to go do Jeopardy or decides to go to Denver or the Las Vegas Raiders or something. I don't know what this guy's going to do, but Aaron Jones is severely underrated every single year. I've been talking about this last year. I talked about it. This guy is so fucking underrated. There's another running back. He's not in the top 12. Chris Carson, also severely underrated player. Aaron Jones, people last year were knocking this guy for he had too many touchdowns. Too many touchdowns. What kind of a fucking problem is it to score too many touchdowns? And then I was like, you know what? If he scores like 5 or 10 less, he had so many touchdowns, it was crazy. I'm going to tell you how many touchdowns this guy had in 2019, because it was just an insane amount. In 2019, this guy had 19 touchdowns. People were like, that's why he did so good, because he had 19 touchdowns. Guess how many touchdowns he scored last year? 11? He scored 11 touchdowns, and he was still a top 5 running back in every single format in just 14 games. So the touchdowns clearly don't matter if they regress a little bit. But if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, it's fucking Mayday. The background of my room is going to come down. It's going to be like in 5, the zombies map from Black Ops 1, if you guys are video game guys or girls. There's some gals watching this. And it says like DEFCON, I'm not even sure. I'm a dumbass. Is it DEFCON 5? Is that the worst one? Whatever the worst one is, it's that there's going to be beaming lights coming out, because I am going to be not fading Aaron Jones, because I'm still going to draft him, right? I'll be fine with Jordan Love, but I think his upside is more limited because we know what the offense looks like with Aaron Rodgers in that offense. I do think Aaron Jones could still be successful without Rodgers, though, as my running back number 6. Again, top 5 running back in PPR, half PPR, and standard in just 14 games last year, averaging 18.5 PPR points per game, 16.8 half PPR points per game, and 15.1 standard points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was running back 5 in PPR, 5 in half PPR, and running back number 6 in standard. His stats go as follows: 1,104 rushing yards on 201 carries, which is 4th most at the running back position in rushing yards. He had 46 receptions. He had 62 targets. He had 347 receiving yards and a grand total of 11 touchdowns, like I said before. So this offense, while they did lose some pieces of their offensive line, the offensive line is still good because they drafted replacements. They don't have another really good receiver. They drafted the Clemson guy whose name is escaping my head. It escaped my head in the last video too. I think his name's Amari Rodgers, but I could be completely wrong, and that is not his name at all. But I know what he looks like. I know he's from Clemson. He's pretty good. But there's no real competition for Aaron Jones, in my opinion, in this backfield. Now, I think that with Jamal Williams gone, that means that A.J. Dillon is going to get more carries. But who cares? Because even if he's just getting that many carries, doesn't really matter, because Aaron Jones is still going to be getting the lion's share of carries in this backfield. I think the Green Bay offense should be good as long as Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Discount Double Check, returns. So I like Aaron Jones as my running back number 6 this season. At number 7, we have Ezekiel Elliott, Mr. Zeke, at the 7. Now, Zeke, weird to see him outside of the top 5, but there is some worrying because last year the offensive line was not good. Not good. Back in the day, DeMarco Murray's running, Tony Romo's under center, and this offensive line is a brick fucking wall. They are a literal brick wall that you cannot penetrate or penetrate, not in a sexual way, You just can't get through that offensive line. And then last year, the offensive line was folding like a table in Buffalo, and a bunch of drunk dudes were jumping through it, okay? That's what was happening. But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? With Dak there, he was so good. Then with Dak gone, he wasn't as good. Why? Because the team wasn't moving the ball as fast without Dak. Who would have known? Without one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, an offense is going to struggle. Who would have guessed? In 15 games, he was running back 90 PPR, 11.5 PPR, and running back 11 in standard, averaging 14.9 PPR points per game, 13.2 half PPR points per game, and 11.4 standard points per game. This is going to be the first instance, really, in this video of his finish being slightly different than his points per game finish. That's why we bring it up, because some guys, they'll play 16 games. That's why they're a top 10 running back, when in reality, every single week they're like running back 20 in points per game perspective. That's not what Zeke is, though. Running back 16 in PPR from points per game perspective, running back 16 in half PPR points per game, and running back 18 in standard points per game. But again, it's kind of a season that I would try to put behind Zeke, because Dak was not there. Sure, it doesn't really screw a running back when their quarterback is gone, but it does when you're going from Dak to Andy Dalton to Gilbert Godfrey to Ben DiNucci. So it's like, I mean, like, he still had a good year, right? 979 rushing yards, 244 carries, 52 receptions, 73 targets, 338 receiving yards, 8 total touchdowns. So he didn't have a bad season, but it wasn't the Zeke that we're used to. But I think with Dak under center, Zeke should easily be a top 10 running back. And if you have him inside your top 5, I ain't going to argue with you. At number 8, we have my boy, JT, out of Wisconsin, Indianapolis Colts running back. In 15 games, Jonathan Taylor finished as running back 6 in PPR, 6.5 PPR, running back 4 in standard, averaging 16.9. Very nice. I like PPR points per game, 15.7 standard, or 15.7 half PPR points per game, 14.5 standard points per game. And from a points per game perspective, JT was running back 9 in PPR, 9 half PPR, and running back numero 7 in standard. JT started the season, and I told you guys in drafts, I was a little worried because I thought that Marlon Mack would be the guy, and I was so right until Marlon Mack's knee, ACL, something, Achilles maybe it was, I don't remember, just game one just gets blown out. And then JT's the guy. I said Jonathan Taylor was really good, so my take was still right, but I was a little nervous about drafting him super early. And if you drafted him super early, you were pretty fucking happy because he was the running back 9 in PPR, 9.5 PPR, and 7 in standard points per game. So he was very, very good when he was on the field as the number 1 guy. Now, Marlon Mack is back, so is that worrisome? Kind of. Kind of. Now, I don't think he's going to get screwed completely, right? Because Nyheim Hines is still going to get touches. Marlon Mack is still going to get touches. Jonathan Taylor is still the number 1 guy on the team, the workhorse running back, so he's still going to be fine. But the fact that they brought back Marlon Mack doesn't make me happy about drafting Jonathan Taylor. Certainly doesn't make me happy, but it doesn't really destroy my opinion of him either. Last year, he had 232 carries, 8th highest at the running back position, 1,169 rushing yards, 41 targets, 12 total touchdowns, 299 receiving yards, and 36 receptions. Now, when looking at the Colts, this is a different offense. Why? Because they went from the dude with 12 kids to the guy with fucking ginger hair who hasn't looked the greatest. But I think he's better than Mr. Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers would come because he has so many fucking kids. That was funny. I've never even used that joke before. That was a into my brain look right there at my psyche. So Jonathan Taylor, if Carson Wentz is any good, should easily be a top 10 running back. Has a whole lot of talent coming out of college that I really liked at Wisconsin. He was one of those guys that a lot of people are like, oh, this guy's got too many carries in college. Let me see if I can find his college stats on his web. Yeah, this dude got 320 rushes in 2019, 307 in 2018, 299 in 2017. At Wisconsin, people are like, oh, dude, they're using him too much. Not going to be able to sustain an NFL season, plays 15 games. What is there to be worried about? The answer is nothing. With Ezekiel Elliott, I think that, not Ezekiel Elliott, with Jonathan Taylor, I think that this team should be very solid. Their defense is pretty good. They have a great offensive line. So don't be really worried. Just draft Jonathan Taylor. Sure, he's not, in my opinion, a top 5 guy, but he definitely has the potential to be that in 2021. At number 9, we have another sex joke. Big Dick Nick Chubb, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Nick full Chubb running back of the Cleveland Browns. Now, with Kareem Hunt still there, not the best for Nick Chubb. Definitely not the best. Is it terrible? No. Is it great? No. Because Kareem Hunt is going to take targets away from this guy, just like I said last year, and it came true. Because, without Hunt, this guy was getting a lot of, 2019, Hunt only played 8 games. He had 50 targets. And those were basically all in those 8 games without Kareem Hunt. Last year only has 18 targets. So it does definitely take a huge schmackola to his value, but even with that, still finishes as a top 12 running back in all categories in just 12 games, running back 11 in PPR, number 9 half PPR, and number 9 in standard, averaging 17.3 PPR points per game, 16.6 half PPR points per game, and 16 standard points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was running back 8 in PPR, 7.5 PPR, and running back 5 in standard. Kevin Stefanski, last year, ran the ball a lot, which was really no surprise at all because at Minnesota, he's the guy who was the offensive coordinator just jamming Dalvin Cook directly into the game for 7 zillion rushes. So they're going to run the ball a lot again in 2021. He's still the head coach, obviously. They made the playoffs last year. They're a run-heavy system. So I like Nick Chubb because he's a good running back in a run-heavy system. He's a big hitter. He's going to beat the shit out of you if you try to tackle him. Going to run your ass over. I like Nick Chubb. Again, don't like him as much because Kareem Hunt's there. If Kareem Hunt wasn't there, he'd be a top 5 running back. But guess what? If Nick Chubb wasn't there, Kareem Hunt would be a top 5 running back. Hunt's not in this video. He's not a top 12 guy for me, but he is a running back that I do like. At numero 10, we got my main man, Cam Akers, running back of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, he played in 13 games, didn't have that many starts, obviously, because they were running that triple-headed backfield at the beginning of the year, and then Cam Akers is out for a decent amount of time. But once he came back towards the end of the season, week 12 to 17, he was a monster, which we're going to talk about in a second. Finishing out the season in 13 games, 45 running back, 45 in PPR, 43 in half PPR, and 42 in standard, averaging just 7.8 PPR points per game, 7.4 half PPR points per game, and 7 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, he was running back 53 in PPR, 49 in half PPR, and running back 44 in standard. But, again, these splits were fucking wild. Mia Malkova-esque splits here in 5 games at the end of the season versus the 7 at the beginning, or the 6 at the beginning. The final 5 games, 13.6 half PPR points per game. The first 6 games he played, 5.05 half PPR points per game. 14.4 PPR points per game versus 5.3. 12.8 standard points per game versus 4.8. Why is this? An uptick in receptions, 1.6 per game versus 0.5. Targets, 2.2 per game versus 0.5. His receiving yards went up 19.2 versus 4.5, and his rushes doubled. 19 at the end of the season versus 8.33 at the beginning of the season. 84 rushing yards at the end of the season, 33.5 per game at the beginning of the season. He didn't score a single touchdown at the beginning of the season, but he was scoring 0.4 per game at the end of the season. So, clearly when you're giving the guy the rock more, he's going to do better. Shocker. Darrell Henderson is behind him. Cam Akers is the guy going into 2021. Sean McVay even went out and said that. With Matthew Stafford injected into this offense, I have super high hopes for Cam Akers in 2021. I think that this offense is going to be high-flying, whatever Ric Flair says when he says that big long-ass speech. That's what Cam Akers is going to be, because he's going to be great. This offense is going to be skipping down the field easily with Matty Snapback at the helm, and when an offense is able to score a lot of points, the running back is going to have a higher chance to score. I love Akers in 2021, and they have a good defense, so you know what they're going to be able to do at the end of the game? Run the ball gently down the stream so that Cam Akers can get even more fantasy points. I love Akers in 2021, and I had a mental battle between myself, like the devil and the angel on my shoulder type of deal here, between Akers and Austin Ekeler, running back 11. I love Austin Ekeler, a.k.a. Mr. Clean, because this guy does have a bald head, but I love Austin Ekeler. Current ADP, 13.4. My running back, number 11, In 10 games, Ekeler finished as running back 26 in PPR, 29.5 PPR, and running back number 35 in standard, averaging 16.5 PPR points per game, 13.8 half PPR points per game, and 11.1 standard points per game. Meaning from a points per game perspective, he was running back 11 in PPR, 14.5 PPR, and running back 21 in standard, tied with Drake, Gordon, and DeAndre Swift. So Ekeler obviously missed a bunch of games due to injury, and his first game of the season was shit. I had such high hopes for this guy. Week 1, shits the bed. You want to know why? Because the guy who got stabbed in the lung, Tyrod Taylor, doesn't know how to dump the ball off. Literally has no idea how to dump the ball off. And then after that, the guy's getting a zillion receptions. He is a guy who in 2019, when he played a full amount of games, almost put up 1,000 receiving yards, 993. But in 2020, he was also getting a lot of receptions, 116 carries, 65 targets for 54 receptions for 403 receiving yards, as well as 530 rushing yards and 3 total touchdowns. The touchdown total should go up. Now, you don't even need Austin Ekeler to really run the ball all that much, because he's a running back, but the value you're getting in him when you're drafting him is you're drafting him for his receiving ability. Again, 65 targets, 8th highest at running back in just 10 games, 54 receptions, 5th highest at running back in just 10 games. So you have to assume that over a 16-game season with Herbert, who liked to dump the ball his way, it should be pretty simple to do the math in your head that Austin Ekeler should be fine as long as he stays healthy. Even if the guys behind him are getting touches, it doesn't really matter, because when you're looking at Ekeler, you're looking for the receiving upside. He's the only guy, in my opinion, that can challenge Mr. Kamara and Mr. Christian McCaffrey for the highest amount of receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in a season. Same thing with targets and receptions. And at number 12, we have my boy Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team. In 14 games, Gibson finished as running back 13 in PPR, 12.5 PPR, and running back 14 in standard, averaging 14.4 PPR points per game, 13.2 half PPR points per game, and 11.9 standard points per game. Meaning from a points per game perspective, he was running back number 18 in PPR, 16.5 PPR, tied with Ezekiel, Elliott, and 15 in standard, tied with Monsieur Miles Sanders. Now, Antonio Gibson got injected onto a team, and right when he got drafted, I was like, dude, we're not going to see Antonio Gibson for like 10 games, because they have Darius Geis ahead of him, Adrian Peterson, they have J.D. McKissick, they have all these guys, Peyton Barber, and then scumbag Darius Geis does what he does. Fuck Darius Geis, by the way. What a scumbag human being. Does that terrible act, which I don't want to repeat. Does that, gets cut. Peterson, gone. Yeah, he was gone. He was on the Lions. So Antonio Gibson, his role went from like, oh man, he's not going to see much, to, oh man, this guy is seeing fucking 20/20 vision. And then he's a baller. He's really good, which shouldn't surprise you, because this guy in college was an excellent receiver. This guy is going to be very good again in 2021. Why? Because the offense is much better. This dude was productive in 2020 with Dwayne Trash Can Haskins as his quarterback, and then the other ragtag team, Alex Smith, and then Alex Smith went down, someone else goes in, Taylor Heineke. It's like these scrubs. Alex Smith is not a scrub. Neither is Tyler Heineke. So basically, Dwayne Haskins fucking sucks, but Antonio Gibson was good with this running back room. Imagine how he's going to be with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Pretty good, you would think. And the defense is really good, so guess what they're going to do late in the game? Run the ball, as long as the team is able to score early on in the game, which I expect them to do with Ryan Fitzpatrick. 170 carries, 795 rushing yards, 44 targets for 36 receptions, 247 receiving yards, and 11 total tugs on a bad Washington football team. But Nick, they made the playoffs, dude. They didn't even have 8 wins, I don't think. They were not the greatest team. They had a great defense, but I think Antonio Gibson's going to take that sophomore step up. He ain't having that sophomore slump. He's going to have the sophomore rocket ship to the moon, top 12 running back. He was that in half PPR last year, 13 in PPR, 14 in standard last year. I think he's going to be able to do it in 2021 again. I just think the offense being better than bringing in all these other weapons with a better quarterback and Riverboat Ron still at the helm, I believe Antonio Gibson will be very good in 2021. Again, there's reasons not to like him, but I love Mr. Antonio Gibson. So let me know down below, pointing at you aggressively. Let me know, you motherfucker, what you thought about this video. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you hate these rankings? Nick, you fucking dumbass. I hate Antonio Gibson. Austin Ekeler sucks. Uh-huh. Mickey Mouse. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. I hope you guys had a great Mother's Day yesterday. And I love you guys all. Make sure that you have a great rest of your day. As always, happy Monday. The week has begun, but I'm fired up to have a great week. It's always a great week in paradise, baby. I love you guys all again. Thank you guys for the support we've seen recently. And I'm getting ready, guys. It's almost June. It's almost July, and then it's August, and it's draft season, so make sure that you guys are preparing. We're having a fun time every single day on my channel. I apologize for missing my upload like 2 days ago. I was fucking swamped like Shrek and Donkey with all this homework for school, but school's basically over now. I just have to turn in my internship project sometime this week, and then I'm done with school for the semester, so thank you guys all so much again. We had a great semester in school, and we're gonna have a great 2021 fantasy football season. I love you guys all. Thank you for everything. Stay safe, and leave code. Just say Shrek in the comments if you made it this far. There's no way that people are listening to me rant right here at the end of the video, but I appreciate you all. Stay safe, guys. I love you. Goodbye.